presents Haunted Hall.
Welcome to another installment of Haunted Hall. This is actually the 10th episode.
It's our first one in a little while, I think, though, right?
Yeah, been a little month or two. Last one came out last month. I think we recorded
just when it came out, when we recorded it.
Yeah. We recorded that one 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's been a while for us. But
yes, doing one of these.
Yes.
And we're back with one of your picks. This is a Manny pick. You selected this film. We've been kind of sticking with that for the most part, the back and forth. Mm-hmm. And the film we're going to be discussing is... We're skipping the original. We're jumping right into a sequel, which is hilarious. I just want to say that here at the top. We're completely bypassing the first movie in this franchise. Mm-hmm. And that film is 1993's Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway.
Some secrets should never be learned. Some borders should never be crossed. Some games
Are you here?
should never be played. Witchboard 2, in a place of unholy refuge.
You're obsessed with that Ouija board.
Where a game has evil powers.
What's happening to you, Paige?
I just got tired of...
A mystery has forbidden secrets. And one soul
Could you find out how she died?
has taken another. Discover the horror of Witchboard 2. No door will hide you. No weapon will save you.
Who's there?
Not even death
You open a door, and the spirits can step through.
will free you. Brace yourself for a journey into the future
What the hell do you want from me?
of fear.
You can't kill me. I'm already dead.
Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway.
Now, before we get into all the logistics and dive into the movie, why do you love this movie so much? I know. Yeah, I know. Don't, but just log line, one line. Like, it's so funny because when you were picking a movie, you're like, oh, I'm going to pick Witchboard 2. And I was like, okay. The sequel, which... To be fair, this movie has nothing to do with the first one. It's a brand new story, kind of. The Ouija. Sorry, it's pronounced Ouija. Ouija is really the only reoccurring MacGuffin taken from the first movie. But yeah, I was just like, Witchboard 2. Okay, Manny, that's the one that's the movie we're gonna cover this month.
I don't know why I chose it. I've always loved this movie. I think I've said it before that cursed objects are probably my favorite, like, subgenre of horror. You know? And this has always been one of my favorites of them. I don't know why. I've been watching it more or less since it came out. Although, well, I there's a small inkling is that I have had a crush on Amy Dolan's since I'm like 10 years old.
That tracks. That makes sense.
You know? I mean, which is funny because my mother had a crush on her father, Mickey Dolenz.
Yes,
so.
which trust me, I have that in my notes right here. I'm looking right at it, but we'll get into that in a sec. The Witchboard franchise, I'll be honest, I don't revisit these films that often. I think I remember renting them a long time ago, over 15 years ago probably, and that might have been the only time. I'm lying. Joe Bob aired Witchboard 1, I think, like a year or two ago. And I think that had been maybe the only the second or third time I saw the original Witchboard. Witchboard 2, I'll be honest, I think this is only maybe the second, well, for this episode, I watched this movie 3 times. Yeah. But watching it the first initial time, that was probably the first time I had seen it in, 20 years when I worked at Marquee Video and I rented all 3 of them. Wow. And I'll be honest, the third one, I have no memory of that one.
I've never seen the third one.
There you go.
Well,
so you have no memory either.
I've never finished the third one.
Okay.
I found it on YouTube a while ago and I started it, but I never finished it. I got like maybe 10 minutes in, and I don't know if I fell asleep or anything. It had nothing to do with the quality of it. I just didn't finish it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about this series. And not to spoil my thoughts on this film, so I'll just kind of give an overview of the way I feel about Witchboard in general. I feel like people forget about them. Yep. You don't see them, so they're kind of underrated. I guess you could say underrated. I'm using that word loosely.
Underseen.
Underseen is a better way. Thank you, Manny. And you don't really see people, you don't see really much merch for the series. And there are 3 films, so it's not like it was a one and done situation. You don't really see T-shirts. You don't really see, besides physical media, and we're going to jump into that next, you don't see much, like just much with this IP. You don't see, it doesn't really exist in the zeitgeist of horror fans. So I do think it's interesting that there's a certain audience of people like you, Manny, 93. You were what? How old were
13?
You? You were preteen, almost a teenager. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing there's a group of people that were old enough at that point to have kind of grown up with these movies, and that's kind of where they stayed. I didn't. 93 was Jurassic Park year for me, so I did not see Witchboard 2, and the first one,
Jurassic Park 2, but
yeah, you know what I mean. Like I didn't. Obviously, 93, I was watching movies and all that stuff and horror films, but just Witchboard 2 was not on my radar.
Was a little under the radar.
No, but at that point, it's like Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Leatherface. That's really what you're focused on because they're so popular. Like most kids, that's where you start. So I didn't watch Witchboard 1 and 2 probably till I was like 20 years old. When I was working at Marquee Video, which has come up on this show several times. That's probably when I was just renting 4 movies every weekend. And I rented, I think, all 3 of them. Yeah. And I don't know why the third one escapes me. I remember nothing. Even rewatching 2.
The third one, I mean, you know what? Maybe they were all straight to video. But the third one, like Kevin Tenney did the first 2. He wasn't
really involved with the third one.
I don't think he had anything to do with
executive producer, maybe writing credit.
Just because it's his.
Yeah, so for me, at least that's kind of my history with it. I saw these much later in life, so I just think it's interesting that you grew up basically watching. It seems like 2 is just one of those movies you watched a bunch as a kid.
I did.
It was just always on. A lot. And speaking of,
Amy Dolan's was a big name at the time too.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's anybody that really became a star after the first Witchboard.
It's got an interesting cast, and when we jump down, you'll see.
From part 1.
From part 1, no.
From part 1. I don't think there's anybody that actually became like a star after that.
Which is funny that the sequel is the one that has some people that of notoriety who are still kind of working today.
Which I think that might be why it was so much more well known between her. I'm sure we're going to, but you had Lorraine Newman from Saturday Night Live.
Yes. When we get into the cast, we'll break them all down. But I think it's just forgotten. People don't talk about Witchboard enough. Maybe Joe Bob showing it a year or so ago, more people learned about it. Mm-hmm. But to my knowledge, you don't really hear people say like Witchboard, Witchboard 2. Witchboard is my favorite franchise. You don't ever hear anyone say that. And even doing research on this movie, it seems like a lot of people love Witchboard 2. And we're not going to get into Witchboard here. We're not. We're going to brush over it entirely and not really talk about it. But
it's going to stay over my shoulder and
yes, that's where it's going to sit and stay the rest of the episode. But Witchboard 1, in my opinion, is a little bit of a slog to get through. I do enjoy it, but it's kind of dull at moments. But there's some stuff about it that I do enjoy. But I would say, not to spoil my overall thoughts on Witchboard 2, but I think it's the superior Witchboard film, in my opinion. And I watched both back to back. So let's run down where you can watch this film and how we watched it and how it was watched before. So, Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway, was released limited theatrical release, September 10th, 1993. So this must have been like 5 screens. This was there's no way this movie had a wide release.
I highly doubt it had a
limited being in the description there. So probably like New York, California, big cities maybe had a weekend run or something like that. 300 screens or 200 screens or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
that even sounds too much for 1993.
At the time, it was a little easier to get a lower budget film into theaters. Because there was just a lot less quality films that were theater ready being released at the time. And again, this has a couple of names in it, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was 2,000-3,000 screens across the country total that did it. Yeah,
I would say I guarantee you, Witchboard 1 probably had a wider release than Witchboard 2 because 93, and this will take me right into my next release here. In 93, you still had the video store boom, Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, mom and pop stores were still around. So at this point, horror on VHS and direct to VHS films were still popular. Yeah. And boy, does this have a phenomenal cover that would anybody, and we'll talk about it when we get to how we watched it and the VHS because it's basically the same cover. But that leads me to the VHS release. So the VHS release it came out a bit later in 93. So from what I could find online, and the VHS is really...
Which is quick at the time, too.
Yeah, it doesn't have there's not a lot of releases of this film.
No.
So 93, a VHS came out towards the end of the year. And if you think about it, September 10th, I guarantee they probably released this around Halloween. All right, so we took a little pause there so Manny could grab his VHS tape.
I should have had it with me.
You should have.
I should have had it. I screwed up.
So now he has it on him. So we can confirm the street date of the VHS tape, or when the VHS was released to video stores, was October 27th. So I was right. Couple days before Halloween, because that would make the most sense. Mm-hmm. That's Halloween weekend.
It does.
I guarantee it. So people were renting horror films like crazy. So make your budget back. Make your budget back somehow, So Manny, what is this 93? This VHS from 93? What is this release that you're currently holding?
It is steel sealed. I'm gonna open it.
Okay.
I'm gonna open it because I'm not one of those collectors that collects things for the intent of selling one day. I collect because I want it. So that's why, So anyway, so this is a screener copy sent to video stores. It specifically says on the bottom here. I'm going to pop that open. There
we go.
This is sealed. This is the first time it's ever been opened. This is brand new, 30 years old.
Yeah, literally.
It has never been opened. This is a mint copy. I could probably have sent this to one of those idiots that put videotapes in cases and then had it priced. Yeah, it's graded. There you go. Had it priced at $30,000.
Okay.
But there
you could probably still do it if you wanted to.
So what you see on here, it says pre-order street. This is for video stores. It's even done an extended play. This isn't like it's just a screener. Pre-order date October 13th. Street date October 17th.
Oh,
October 27th.
27th. There we go.
Promotional use only, not for resale. Yeah, this is supposed to open. I can see it too, but it's not. Wow.
Don't damage it.
There we
now.
go. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. There we go.
Very cool. So it basically has information about the film on the inside.
$8 million supernatural box office saga continues. 1993 theatrical release.
We'll plug in some photos of the of the VHS here so you can see what's inside of it.
This is literally for video stores. Buy three copies of Witchboard 2, and you'll receive 2 bonus copies of the original Witchboard for free.
Oh,
so this is what you would buy for your video store. Pre-pack VHS, offer good through 10/13/93 only. What's really cool about this is it also has on the back, it shows you the other promotional items you could get for it. Raise the roof with our exclusive double-sided Witchboard 2 Amityville: The New Generation standee. So on
Amazing.
one side of it is Witchboard 2, the other side is Amityville. They also had you could get the poster, you could get the Laserdisc, or the Shelf Talker, which I have not been able to find out what it is. It's called a Shelf Talker.
I'm assuming it's like a little standee that when you walk past it,
it's like an A-frame standee.
Sound comes out of it. Maybe she speaks.
Something. So Amityville: New Generation was hitting a video cassette in September that year. This is a 5-inch or 5-foot double-sided standee. 5 foot. I don't know. If,
which was the norm back in the day in video stores. You'd
for them to be really big.
You'd have those tall, like you have a Freddy's Dead one that's massive.
Yes,
so
that was kind of 5.5 feet tall. Yeah,
so that makes sense.
Cast a powerful spell with the bewitching pop, P-O-P.
Pretty solid VA. That's a good find.
I know. And that's the cover you were talking about. It's really awesome cover.
Yes.
There actually was a standee made for this for video stores of the hand, where it was the poster where it's not. Oh wait, that might actually no, that's not it because it's double sided. So what it is that it was a cardboard backing of the whole thing, and then this was separate and 3D and stood out in front of it.
That's pretty sick too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great cover. While we're talking about it, you've got, and this is an actual scene from the film.
Which is even cooler that it's actually in the movie. It's not just some promo they made.
It's obviously like an airbrush painting, very traditional, standard 80s, 90s VHS art. The Blu-ray that we watch, which I'll get into in a sec, is the same exact cover. But it does look nicer on a VHS, I will admit.
It really does.
It does look a lot. It looks a lot nicer on the VHS.
I'm gonna have to get like a poster. I'm gonna have to get a Witchboard 2 poster. I think art.
After this episode, you're just realizing this is top 10 films of all time. Witchboard 2 for Manny.
Maybe top 20. I don't know,
top 20.
Top 20. Yeah.
You're gonna come into the realization this is your top 10 film of all. Number 10, Witchboard 2. But yes, so outside of that VHS from 1993, there weren't any other releases of this. I'm sure there was a couple of foreign ones. I didn't come across too many online, but I guarantee there had to have been foreign releases of this somewhere. Yeah. So I'm sure if you look, when we covered Hell High, we spoke about other, because there were different variant covers, titles. This is just Witchboard 2, and I'm pretty sure it's Witchboard 2 in everywhere. It was probably advertised as Witchboard 2. If it even made it to other countries, because who knows? It might have only been a film that stood in, it just was only in the US. So in 2013, Olive Films, which I'm assuming has some involvement with Paramount, because Paramount is also listed on the packaging. There was a special edition DVD and Blu-ray. So in 2013, keep in mind, this is literally 10 years ago, DVDs were still around and still being produced at that time, which is kind of crazy. That was 10 years ago. 11 years ago. It's 2024. What am I saying? So 11 years ago, the DVD and the Blu-ray were released at the same time. So
Olive Films is just a company. They're not connected to anybody. Just a production company. That's it.
So they're the ones that released this. So we're watching the Blu-ray, which is this. Again, great cover. Yours is better on the VHS, Manny. And this is literally the last release of this film. There is no other, as far as I know, I could not come across any other companies that are making a box set with all three films or anything like that at the time of this recording.
I think it's possible that there will be, and I'm sure we'll get into that later why.
There you go. So, like I said, this is basically what we watch. Now, it is available on streaming. You can find it to rent on Amazon. It did pop up. Someone uploaded, and I don't condone this, but condone this kind of behavior. Someone uploaded the entire film on YouTube. So you can. I don't think it's a official, freebie with ads. Legitimately, I think someone just uploaded it.
It's just a copy.
Someone just uploaded it to to YouTube in its entirety. Listen, you want to upload a couple of clips. God damn, the whole film though? They put the whole
There's a lot of whole full movies
I know.
on YouTube.
I know. This isn't even a public domain film. Come on.
Well, I'm not totally opposed to the movies that go on YouTube because a lot of these movies literally don't exist otherwise.
No.
But this one does.
Exactly.
This
you can
does.
rent
and
this
you see
and
the
buy
Blu-ray
it.
came out in 2013, so this isn't even like it's a new thing. This
No.
Blu-ray is 10 years old.
Yeah.
So you can find this film. It's not like I've watched movies on YouTube that are just like nobody's seen this.
There's no release.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Like somebody
the VHS.
ripped their VHS
Yeah.
and threw it on YouTube, and that's it. And there's thousands of movies like that.
But this, I don't like. I feel like take this down. Whoever has that, they're not gonna listen to this show. But you know what I mean. Like, you put up the whole goddamn movie on YouTube. The disrespect.
The disrespect.
The disrespect. But the Blu-ray itself, this is on the minimal side
Very.
of releases for us. Usually, when we ran through Hell High, there were tons of special features on that Blu-ray.
Arrow does a good job.
Oh, Arrow kills it. Not every Blu-ray is going to be, especially on this show, not every Blu-ray we cover is going to be this big, immaculate special edition. It's fun to look at older Blu-rays that maybe only have a couple of features because some love was put into an obscure film like Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway.
Yeah.
So this is what's on the Blu-ray. We've got an audio commentary with Kevin Tenney, John Gattins, and Julie Michaels. We're going to get into the cast in a sec. There's a BTS featurette, so behind the scenes featurette, which is a lot of fun. You can tell this might have been ripped from a VHS.
Or probably Laserdisc.
Or Laserdisc.
This is
you
probably
can just,
features on the Laserdisc.
You can just tell. To go back to the commentary, I listened to it. I know you listened to it. It's a lot of fun. It's Kevin Tenney for 90 minutes telling the cast how attractive they are.
Pretty much.
It's
Pretty much.
hysterical. He's literally how attractive John Gatton is, Julie Michaels, Amy Dolan's, how hot they are.
Yep.
Men, women, they're all hot.
All of them. He got a very pretty cast, and he's very proud of it.
He is very proud of how attractive and sexy everyone is.
There's a lot of ugly people in the first movie. In the first Witchboard, there's a couple of not so attractive people in that one. You know.
So you know what I like about it? You can tell it's three people that like each other and have stayed. They stood in touch since making this movie, and they're just having a good time watching the movie and talking shit. This was a special moment for them, regardless of what everyone else thinks of. It's very genuine. So I really like that. And they go through a lot of, how he, and we'll get into that much later in our episode, but how he shot certain scenes and things like that, the actors, the wardrobe. You learn that Kevin Tenney's wife worked for Guess. So a lot of the wardrobe was provided by her from Guess, Guess jeans. So Guess jeans, Guess jackets, Guess everything. So I thought that was really it was a fun commentary. It's like you're listening to friends hanging out. That's basically almost like a podcast.
They did get into production notes too. Talked about how they shot some things, which I loved to hear. You know,
locations, everything, where it was shot, which was all California. So really good, entertaining commentary because, some commentaries can be quite dull. There are some dull-ass commentaries out there. This is the least pretentious commentary I've heard.
It really...
In a long time.
It's exactly what you said. It's a couple of friends just sitting talking. Like,
I'd compare it to the Hell High one.
They were enjoying seeing each other probably after like 20-something years. They were just like, oh, man, look at you.
I get the sense that Kevin Tenney still talks to a lot of these actors.
I mean, he still works a bit. He doesn't work a lot, but he works, he's got another movie every couple of years.
No, yeah. There's 2 deleted scenes. I'll be honest, these are kind of, one's not really nothing. I'm sure the actors were like, damn, what happened there? 2 nothing deleted scenes. One is 2 of the characters, the 2 leads, hooking up and completely taken out of the film. You never see them almost get it on. So an interesting to put the actors through that to just them act being passionate and making out and trying to remove clothing and then just take it out of the movie. They weren't only using sex. It didn't work.
It didn't work in the film.
There's another scene of the couple in the car, and they're talking.
A little longer.
Yeah, and that was cut out. So nothing deleted scenes. You're not really missing much.
No.
You know, not checking them out. If you're familiar with the film, you're not missing much. You know, gotta buy that Blu-ray to catch those 2 deleted scenes from Witchboard 2.
Unfortunately, find the deleted scenes uploaded on YouTube as well by themselves, I'm sure.
It's probably an entire director's cut, producer's cut on YouTube too, extended the 3-hour cut of Witchboard 2.
Somebody put the 2 deleted scenes back in.
And then there's trailers, all VHS trailers, TV spots, which I did get a kick out of because I'm guessing, again, the limited theatrical release,
Witchboard
some of these,
2.
These TV spots. So they did market the film to try to get
the first one did
in the theaters. Yeah.
The first one did fairly well. And they were like, here comes the second one with bigger stars, bigger names. Mm-hmm. And I guess it just didn't hit. It didn't take.
No, it didn't. And this was 6 years after the original. Yeah. So there was quite a gap in between films. So I think, and you know, the movie doesn't have a lot of drama behind the scenes. Kevin Tenney, and you know, we kind of brushed over him, but I got him here. Kevin Tenney, pretty known director. So I just think he worked on other projects and decided to come back around to Witchboard and make another movie, and was able to get investors and producers to produce another Witchboard film. So kind of. He did Witch Trap in the middle.
Witch Trap, starring Linnea Quigley.
Which was supposed to it was supposed to be a sequel because it's the same actor from the first movie.
It's the ghost,
the
the dead guy with the axe. Yeah.
It's technically supposed to be a sequel, but it's not actually a sequel. I'm guessing that didn't, maybe that might have been why this didn't do so well. I mean, I don't know. He had a nice little run. He did Witchboard. He did Night of the Demons, which fits in this. Then he did Witch Trap.
Pinocchio's Revenge. After this,
he did The Cellar,
yes.
which is another haunted type of thing. And then he did Witchboard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, this was kind of like at the end of it, of all those weird, haunted object kind of supernatural films. He did a whole line of them, and this is the last one. So it's weird that this didn't do well, especially after Witchboard and Night of the Demons.
Yeah, which is, and I would say Night of the Demons is probably his like opus. Like that's the film everyone will remember Kevin Tenney for. Like, I think when you think Kevin Tenney and you're a horror fan, Night of the Demons is probably...
I wonder if most horror fans even realize it's Kevin Tenney.
Probably not, and these are his, like he wrote this as well. Yes. So he wrote, directed Witchboard 2. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he wrote, directed Night of the Demons.
Yep.
He's a writer director. So these are not director for hire gigs. These are passion projects of his.
Yes, they are.
So he wants to make these movies. And I always thought Kevin Tenney was a great director. His movies are fun.
Yes.
And he's one of those filmmakers that his movies are like roller coasters. They're not always overtly violent, or excluding Night of the Demons is pretty violent, but even the Witchboard movie, the first one, isn't really that bloody. Not. This isn't really that bloody. There is some blood. It's a horror film, but I've seen worse, and I've always just enjoyed his films. I just think he, as a director, knows how to make a film that's not boring. Even though I joke that Witchboard 1 is kind of dull, there's still stuff about it that when you're watching it, you're like, all right, I'm engaged. I want to see where this is going. And I even think he knows, and I got this from listening to the commentary, and I did listen to the Night of the Demons commentary years ago because I have that Blu-ray too. And to go back to that, and just him as a director and as a person, you could just tell the guy wants to make movies that people want to watch and be entertained by. That's basically it. He's making movies that are
cool
fun.
Horror films. That's it.
He is not, he's not making films for the art house crowd. He's not making these overly artistic films, even though he does a lot of artistic shit with cinematography, which is impressive.
He's creative.
Creative.
He's creative, not so much artistic. I think artistic it would be a big word.
And there's different types. And there's different types of filmmakers. There's filmmakers that want to put butts in seats and have people watch these movies and it's their career. And they, again, I'm using that word several times, entertain.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to describe, Kevin S. Tenney. We forgot the S. Kevin S. Tenney is how he goes. That's his director name. But let's go into the cast here. You teased it earlier. You mentioned some of the cast members here. Amy Dolenz as Paige. Mm-hmm. She, besides being respectfully an attractive woman.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, an attractive woman. Respectfully, once again. Disclaimer, respectfully. She was in a bunch of horror films that are also of this ilk and came out around the same time. Ticks, which I'm a huge fan of Ticks.
I love Ticks.
Pumpkinhead 2. I'm a huge fan of Pumpkinhead 2. That's the one that has Punky Brewster in it, if I remember correctly. I actually think I own that on Blu-ray or one of the releases. And like you said before, she's Mickey Dolenz's daughter, the drummer / singer of the Monkees. So there's that connection. if you needed to know who her father was.
She was pretty big at the time, even beyond.
She was.
She was in Step Monster. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I have seen that. I wrote that down on my list. Forgot to say it. So
Miracle Beach with another one of my favorite actors of the time, Dean Cameron.
Yes,
which is
very popular as well.
I love Dean Cameron. Summer School and what was the name of the TV show? They're from Out of This World, I think it was called.
Where she's an alien?
No,
that's a different one I'm thinking of. Out of This World, I think. Yeah.
Yes, Out of This World. That's a different.
That's the alien with the pointing of the finger.
No, there was one where Dean Cameron and his brother were aliens from another planet, and the two of them were in. I forget what the name of that show was.
It rings a bell, but
I loved that show too. Out of This World, right?
Out of This World was the pointing where she's an alien. Yeah.
Yeah, Out of This World. I think
it's Out of This World. Listeners are like, it's this, guys.
Yeah, they are. People are screaming at us right now.
Our apologies. But yeah, Amy Dolenz, Babe, respectfully. Her performance in this, I wouldn't say is fantastic. She's a little wooden at times, but you can tell why they hired her. If I'm being honest here. She's got a presence on screen. She does.
She does.
And there's some moments in the film where
they came from outer space.
There you go.
It was bothering me.
Thank you, Google. So again, she's good in this film, but I almost feel like she's a prop where it's I don't think she's wooden. She becomes a little wooden in the end. Yeah. Because she's playing something that's so not herself. I think she's perfect for the Paige character. Because Amy Dolenz herself has this very kind of girl next door personality, and she played that character in a lot of films. Yeah. And then at the end, as she goes through this film, she has a transformation where she becomes very kind of sexual and she swears a lot more and she becomes very aggressive. Which is a callback to the original film, Witchboard 1, where when you get possessed by the spirit, it makes you more aggressive and sexy, apparently. Yes. That's what it does. This one specifically does for a reason. Yeah, but there's a reason, But it's kind of out of her personal character. And she doesn't really play that character very often in the first place. So when she kind of starts doing that in the end of the film, you can almost see her a little struggling through it a bit. Like she's trying to swear and she's not a person who naturally curses and swears. I think they even said it in the commentary that it's so alien for her to behave that way. That she doesn't dress sexy. She doesn't dress revealing. She doesn't speak aggressively or anything. She's very soft-spoken. Polite, like Linda Blair. It's out of character for her to be that way, and I think they both do the same thing now. Performance.
It's not.
I want to say that.
No, but that's just that little bit of aggression in her is so out of her personality that it seems that you can see her struggling to really pull it off.
What the hell do you think you're doing? This is my office, my desk. How dare you come in here like this? And you get out of here before—
Shut the fuck up! If you ever pull a stunt like this again, you're gonna need a calculator to count all the teeth you'll be missing.
I just thought there was some line delivery where I was just like, all right, that's kind of rough, but whatever. This is a film from '93. Like, we named a bunch of films: Night of the Demons, Witchboard 1, Witch Trap. None
with
of them
Linnea Quigley as well.
Yes, no, I wouldn't say there's any Academy Award-winning performances in any of these films, and we love all of them. So that's no knock on Amy Dolenz or Kevin Tenney or anything like that, because Amy, again, I feel like she fits the role.
She does.
And there's just moments where I was just like, okay, whatever. She's wearing Daisy Dukes. I'm over it. Okay. Next on the list, we have John Gaddens, who I mentioned before. He took part in the commentary as Russell. This guy has a really interesting career. And I did not know this. So this was his first leading role in a feature film. You learned that in the commentary. He too was in Pumpkinhead Part 2. He was also one of the leads in Leprechaun 3, which Dave and I covered like 2 years ago.
I forgot
the Las
about that
Vegas
until
one. Yes, he was in that one. So go back and listen to that episode. That was a fun movie to cover, Leprechaun 3.
Some connections here too.
Yeah, and here's what I thought was really interesting. So I guess after the 90s or whatever, he started to produce films and write films. And he co-produced, which I thought this was hysterical, being a wrestling fan. He co-produced Ready to Rumble with David Arquette, the WCW movie. Yeah. With all the WC and Rose McGowan.
I didn't know any of this. I didn't look into any of his.
Dude, hysterical. He was I'm assuming, I don't know why. I'm guessing he might have been maybe a wrestling fan. There's got to be some, I don't know. I would love to know how he got involved in Ready to Rumble. That's hysterical. Also, he became a writer.
Yeah.
He wrote Flight with Denzel Washington, Kong Skull Island.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, which was a few years ago. That wasn't even that long ago. Power Rangers, the kind of reboot feature film that came out a few years ago. So the dude...
It's really funny.
What?
How I keep picking these movies where these smaller roles inside the film, they turned out to be huge later on. Like we did the same thing with Zombie Nightmare. Yeah. Where the one guy, the one actor in it became a really big director.
Yeah. And it's just
funny.
Like going through his IMDb page and Wikipedia page, I was taken back. I was like, wow, this dude is doing his thing. He's only like 54 years old too, so he's still working, he's still active, but it's in a behind the scenes capacity. It doesn't seem like he's acting much anymore. Yeah. So it seems like the breadwinning is coming from writing. And I think I even saw a bunch of he does rewrites. So I guess he's one of those guys that gets paid to do uncredited rewrites. If you look at his IMDb, he's got like 6 movies or 5 movies that he gets uncredited rewrites. So they just cut him a check. Hey, dude, rewrite this for us. Boom. Yeah. And he's like, whatever. So Kong Skull Island, I was like, wow, that's impressive. Crazy. Yeah, because that's like a huge movie.
Crazy. This man started the Monsterverse.
Yeah. We laugh because we covered Zombie Nightmare and Sean Levy just directed Deadpool versus Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, it was kind of like Deadpool versus Wolverine, but Deadpool and Wolverine. He directed that. He is the douchey
Went
kid.
from Zombie Nightmare.
He is the douchey kid from Zombie Nightmare to directing one of the highest grossing films to come out this year.
So I said, how do I keep picking these movies? Like
it's amazing. Dude, it's so interesting how some of these actors, like the trajectory of their career, where it goes, where you start in this really low budget film, got probably paid $15,000, maybe even less, $10,000 to be in this movie. And now you're writing a, million and millions of dollars,
just made $150 million Marvel movie.
So it's wild to me.
I was going to say, the film industry, it never truly lets you go.
No.
Never truly forgets about you. There's always another way. There's always, don't give up on your dreams.
That's what that tells you. Listen, he's still working.
Don't give up.
So John Gaddens, you're the man, dude. And I'll be honest, I really like him in this film. He's
great.
Yeah, he's great. He's probably the 2 male leads, and I'm going to get to the second one. Yeah, he's the better of the 2, but I like both of them in this. And I kind of like what they do with the Russell character. And we go into the synopsis in a sec, and we get into the ending. I just love the kind of character arc throughout the film with Russell and his performance. Even though I will admit he takes a nut shot in this. It is the most overacted nut shot I've ever seen. It goes on for about 7 minutes, but I wouldn't blame him. That's probably the director's fault. So that just went on.
That's
and
editing.
On.
Could have cut that.
Editing, and I think the director was like, "Dude, you got hit in the nuts. This is painful.
You gotta really play this up.
Really, your balls are aching. One's purple right now." So that is literally
he has like 2 or 3 one-liners for it too.
He does. Yeah, he just
keeps going back like, I got another one for it. I got another one for
Every take,
it.
he jotted one down in between. But yeah, the king of nut shots, John Gattens. The other male lead, Timothy Gibbs as Mitch. The guy did a lot of TV, was on Sex and the City. Very
he has
macho.
a recognizable face.
Yes, very macho. Yeah. Looks like a cop, which he's a cop in this film. He's good too. I like him a lot. He is the stereotypical douchey boyfriend you're not supposed to be rooting for, but
that's what I like about him.
And that's what I like about it too. Yeah. They do change.
He's almost a red herring.
Yes.
You
think you're not rooting for Mitch.
No.
You want Paige to stay away from him. And they do something for 93 that I feel was pretty innovative for films like this. You mentioned Lorraine Newman. She plays Eileen, big SNL person, I believe in the 80s.
Yeah, she started the Groundlings.
Yes, and she's one of the Coneheads, I think. One of the original Coneheads, I think, possibly.
I think so.
Yeah, so she at the time, that was what she was known for. So it was a big deal for Lorraine Newman to be in this. Just being in this little silly film. And she's good too. It almost feels like she's playing an SNL skit because her character's stuck in the 60s and obsessed
silly.
with her dog and stuff like that. So it almost comes off of a character you would see on Saturday Night Live. That's what the performance feels like. It's supposed to be dumb, but when she's serious, and there's really only 1 or 2 moments where the character plays up serious, you feel for her.
Yeah.
Pretty solid performance that, that happens.
She's really good. She's still a very busy actress today. She still works she's been in a ton. She probably has the most extensive career of everyone from this film.
Probably.
She's got the longest resume, I think.
Safe bet. And last on my list, at least, we have Julie Michaels as Susan, the evil spirit. I thought this was funny on her credits. She is the naked FBI agent in the beginning of Jason Goes to Hell. When the squad they're trying to set Jason up by putting a plant. She's the bait. They have a plant, and she's the one that's kind of Jason's going after, and they blow him up at the very end. That's that opening scene where he blows up and his head flies off into the sky. She's the FBI agent that he's chasing, and she's doing backflips and showing boobies and all that good stuff.
That's what she was. She was a sexy girl in a lot of movies then. It said she was in Roadhouse. I haven't seen Roadhouse in 35 years. So I couldn't tell you who she was. I couldn't tell you.
But that was
apparently her first role.
Yeah. It's a small role in Roadhouse. I'm sure it's like one of the roles where she walks in, says hi to Patrick Swayze, and then keeps it moving or something like that. I don't recall seeing her.
She's got a lot of uncredited roles. Cage dancer in an episode of Married with Children. Dr. Mordred. She was in a small role in that. Yeah, she was the sexy girl. And fashion show patron in an episode of House. A barista in an episode of Ghost Whisperer. Pedestrian. California blonde. Female bar patron. French patron. That's like in a row.
Yeah. But I'll always know her as the naked FBI agent from Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
And Witchboard 2 as Susan. So there you go. And what's funny is Jason Goes to Hell came out, a year or 2 before this? 91, 92, 90? It was a couple years before that. I love Jason Goes to Hell. That's underrated. I don't love it as much as Jason Takes Manhattan, but I do dig Jason Goes to Hell.
No, same year, 93.
There
Jason
you go.
Goes to Hell.
Big year for Julie Michaels.
She had a big year.
She's Susan and hot FBI agent, respectfully, once again. But Manny, since this is your film, what happens in Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway?
you don't have a choice. You shoot me, you shoot Paige. And it would be a shame to put a hole in such a nice body when I just got it.
Okay, so in Witchboard 2, Amy Dolan's playing Paige. She breaks up with her boyfriend, Mitch, and she gets herself an apartment. And one of these classic late 80s, early 90s scene moments where you see an artist living in like an abandoned warehouse type thing that has been turned into a loft apartment.
Sick apartment.
Oh my God.
It's a great apartment.
It's amazing. It's not even an apartment. It's a freaking building. Like,
yeah,
wow.
it's like the dream home I'd want. Like
It
it's
really
just
is.
Really, and they say it in the commentary. They bring it up that it was an actual apartment or like a place someone could rent and live. It's just like this big space with the bed upstairs. It's a great location.
Like 15, 17-foot ceilings. You know, it's just a big open loft space with a bed on a raised platform, like a second floor, but it's just the bedroom, and there's no wall either.
Yeah,
you know, it's just kind of like a little railing to keep you from falling off. You know, but it's a loft. This is that stereotypical artist loft of the 90s movies that you saw that would probably cost you be $1 million rent, $1 million apartment today. But back then it was, they were considered, I guess, undesirable places to live because they were usually in crappy neighborhoods too. So you could find a place like this fairly cheap.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Seth Brundle's apartment in The Fly. It's kind of like just this big warehouse. That's what it reminds me of.
Just a warehouse that got turned into apartments. That's
his
exactly
is a bit dingier than hers.
Yeah.
This is a lot nicer. Paige's apartment's a lot nicer.
Much prettier.
Yeah, it's a lot prettier.
So she gets herself this apartment after kind of breaking up as a soft breakup, I guess, with Mitch. It's not like a real serious.
Never quite explained. They kind of brush over it. They're separated, but they're not married. And
it seems like he didn't take her art seriously, so she just wanted some space. So yeah, it's a soft breakup.
She just wants to paint in her loft apartment.
That's it.
Be cute. That's it. That's what Paige wants to do. Cute, get a promotion at her job, make art, and fuck around with Ouija boards. Boards.
So upon moving in, she's putting herself in the closet, and she's putting herself into the closet, and she finds this Ouija board, the Ouija board from the first movie. How it got in this closet on the top shelf, never know. We'll have no idea.
Listen, in the last film, it was full of gunshot. It was
shot to hell.
shot to hell and thrown in the trash.
And here it is.
Here it is, back in one piece.
Here it is 6 years later, intact in Paige's closet.
Just sitting there. No dust or anything on it either. It's just,
nope.
It's just
brand new. So she starts playing with the Ouija board as she should, because the movie's called Witchboard, so use the damn Witchboard. And she starts communicating with the spirit of Susan. And Susan starts talking to her, and they kind of become friends. And then there's a little bit of a mystery as to what happened to Susan. I'll just kind of run through that real fast. Essentially, Susan's dead. Or Susan says she's dead. We don't know if she's dead yet, because as far as Russell says, she moved out. Okay? But obviously there's a spirit calling herself Susan, so what actually happened to Susan? And now there's suspicion thrown by Paige toward kind of everybody, toward Elaine, who owns the building, Jonas, who is her kind of creepy brother. Like they're both playing in their 40s or so, you know. Lorraine owns the building. Jonas is her weird brother who's the, I guess, the super of the building.
Yeah.
No, her husband. Excuse me. Jonas is her husband. Mitch is her brother.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just confusing
Russell's
the names.
her brother.
Russell. See, but I'm just confusing the names. That's it. Yes.
Russell is the brother.
Yes. Russell is Lorraine's brother. Jonas is her husband, who is really creepy and hits on Paige constantly. Hey, anything I can do for you. And he's supposed to be the super of the building, but he's really kind of just this useless guy who just, who the only reason he has this job of being the super of the building is because his wife owns the building. Elaine is, as you said earlier, she's kind of stuck in the 60s, like she took way too many drugs and her brain never moved on.
They even say it in dialogue. I think that they imply that she's just a burnout. Too many hits of acid or some shit.
So she starts to suspect that maybe Jonas did something to her. She eventually suspects that Russell did something to her. Elaine briefly maybe knew something, but she brushes off Elaine as having anything to do with it. As she speaks to Susan more, Paige's personality starts to change. She starts to dress differently. She starts to talk differently. She's speaking, again, like you said earlier, she starts swearing, and she's dressing much more provocatively. You know, she's walking around in a nightie, and, you know, when she was kind of really covered up.
Super conservative is
yes.
basically what she's portrayed as early
Russell's
in the film.
a photographer, and I want to photograph you, and just getting her to unbutton the top button of her shirt was like pulling teeth out, because she was so kind of reserved of a person, and by the end she's wearing Daisy Dukes and
crop top and showing all the goods.
Crop top with it, you know, and she's wearing Daisy Dukes with freaking cowboy boots. I think it's the worst outfit that I think she's ever been put in any of her movies.
I mean, she's looking good
stupid.
To me, man.
She looks good in it, but it's a stupid looking outfit. It's a really stupid looking outfit.
I mean, okay. I mean, whatever.
I think it just looks dumb. As hot as she is in it, it looks stupid. But anyway, eventually she does learn that, yes, Paige was killed, and it culminates in the spirit kind of taking over her body, you know, and going after Russell, who Susan kind of had a thing with. You know, so she uses Paige to go after Russell, and they have to vanquish the spirit of sorts and get rid of her. And it kind of has like a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 ending with them in the cemetery digging up a grave. It kind of has that kind of feel to it as well.
The plot of the film is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
At times, you're questioning where it's going to go for a movie of this caliber in 1993. And it does some unique stuff, I would say mostly with the ending. A lot of the details with Paige, like I said before, a lot of that was carried over from the previous movie. A lot of it, they talk about the entity. I forget what they call it exactly, but there's an entity that latches onto you, and Russell tells her that it's an evil force, and you start to get the sense that someone's hiding something. There is a dark secret within some of these people that live in this building. And I'd say we just get into the ending here, because you really can't discuss the rest of the film without getting into the ending.
Dancing around it.
So basically, and Manny, correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of the ending, a lot of it's said in dialogue and sort of implied, but you end up finding out that Russell took photos, because when Susan's trying to communicate with Paige, she says Upton, and she thinks it means uptown.
Yeah.
But in reality, Upton is the name of Russell's photography company.
Upton Photography, yeah.
So that's his company. So that's where she puts two and two together that, oh, she knew you. Something happened. Then we find out, because Mitch is a cop, so he's able to do his cop research and go into the evidence locker, because that's a thing, I guess, in LA as a beat cop. He finds out that Jonas and Elaine killed Susan.
No, Russell killed Susan.
Russell killed Susan, but they knew.
Yeah. Because
I took it that Jonas and Elaine knew that she was killed, that they were involved in it. That's what I took it.
No, Russell was involved.
I know Russell was involved, obviously, yeah.
Susan wasn't paying her rent. Susan didn't pay her rent. She slept with Jonas.
That's what it is. But there was a connection. There is a connection with...
Yes, she was sleeping with Jonas to get out of paying her rent and whatever. Yeah. And Russell, to protect his sister, essentially, killed Paige. Killed Susan.
So technically, they are involved. It's basically these three characters.
But I don't think they knew.
Yeah,
I think that as far because
never
Russell
spelled out for you.
No, Russell sets up that because Russell's the one who says no, she moved out. So Russell set it up that she moved out. After he killed her, he made them think she moved out, and now they're just renting it to somebody else. So I don't think that Lorraine and Jonas knew at all. I think it was just Russell, and that's it.
And what I alluded to earlier, and what I like about this ending, that Russell is basically hiding his dirty laundry from Paige because he's the one responsible for killing her.
Yes.
His sister, his brother-in-law, they're all sort of this. The three of them are not in on it, but it involves the three of them.
It does.
I like how the love interest, or the guy you think is going to become the love interest, is actually behind everything.
The switch. And it's and the boyfriend Mitch Mitch ends up, I wouldn't say being the nice guy, but he ends up being kind of the hero in the end. They swap them,
which is cool,
which is really cool.
Yeah, you know when you watch movies like Scream. Mm-hmm. What's his name? Billy Loomis. Yeah, he's obviously playing the bad boy. So you're like, okay, he's the killer at the end. You're surprised.
But you're not surprised.
But you're not surprised. Yeah, you knew something was up. In this, you look at Mitch and you're like, he knows something. Mm-hmm. Until there's a certain point where you're like, all right, maybe he doesn't know something.
He's so resistant to her. Yeah, it's like he's so resistant to her living in this place that it's almost like, what do you know about this place? But he's completely oblivious to all of it. He has nothing to do with anything.
He's literally an innocent bystander that just cares about Paige. He just wants to help her and protect her. So I do like how in the end, it's the three of them are involved, the two men and the woman, Paige, Mitch, Russell. Yeah. And the guy you think is going to be
a jealousy thing,
the hero is really not. And his death scene's great. He gets like a pickaxe to the stomach, through wood, like through a pillar. It's pretty gnarly. The ending's great, man. I dig this movie. I think what I like about it so much, and I know we're kind of jumping around with the synopsis and the ending and stuff, but what I like about it so much is the fact that they took some risk in a time period where I don't think movies were taking risk. Slasher films were on the decline. And, I mentioned Jason Goes to Hell. That wasn't a standard slasher film, but people were trying to do...
That was taking a risk as well.
But people were trying to do different things where, like, the good-looking young guy you think is going to save... The 90210 looking dude is not the big hero at the end. He's actually the protagonist. Not the antagonist, sorry. He's the antagonist of the film. And you don't even know it. It's almost like a slasher film where the killer's revealed. Before, that was always a thing. But in this case, there is no killer. It's a spirit that's trying to get revenge. And it's
for being killed, yes.
And the people that it's killing are the people that killed it, or killed her in this case. So I like that. I wasn't expecting that the first time I saw it, and having not watched the movie in a long time, rewatching it for the show, even I was like, oh shit, he's dead. I was even shocked to see Russell get killed, especially because he's obviously into Paige. He's protecting his sister. When Jonas is killed, he's there to comfort her. And then in the end, you find out that all three of them are the reason this is happening. Yeah. It's all their fault. So,
well, I wouldn't.
Yes and no.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like the three of them, their mess with Jonas, sleeping with Susan, and then him being her sister.
Lorraine found out, and that's why they evicted her.
It's ahead of its time.
It was evicted. Yeah, they evicted her, and I think that it was Russell was jealous, and he had a fight with her over it, and that's when he killed her.
I'm trying to think of another movie that did this around that time, or even earlier. I mean, I could think of slasher films with super convoluted endings like Curtains, where there's like two killers that don't know each other, but this, I wouldn't say it's convoluted. It's all, explained through exposition, but it makes sense. You get it, you know? And Susan, they don't make Susan out to be an angel either.
No.
In the end, she does want to hurt.
They even swap
Mitch.
her. Yeah, but they even swap her too. Like because through the whole course of the film, you're under the impression that this is an evil spirit taking over Paige as well. You know, because I think that they're kind of using the expectations from the first film against you.
Yeah,
you know?
Which makes sense. You want to change it up. You don't want the same exact
They tried
plot.
to do and the same thing, Night of the Demons as well, Witch Trap as well, that there's an evil spirit that is taking over someone's body, you know, and he took those expectations of people who've seen those sorts of films, you've seen that, and kind of flipped it on its head here. Where this is actually, she's not an evil spirit, she is a vengeful spirit, but she's justified in her vengeance as well. You know, where at the end of the film, like, she just wanted revenge for being killed. You know, she just had to go through, the spirit had to possess Paige in order to do it. So ends justify the means. It's just a matter of the means were kind of screwed up, you know.
She's still an evil spirit,
yeah,
but her intentions, I guess,
she's an angry spirit.
She's an angry spirit.
She's not an evil spirit. She's an angry spirit.
I was gonna say she means well, but not really. She still wants to kill people.
She only wants to kill Russell. Really?
Yeah.
She only wants to kill Russell. She kills Russell and Jonas, because Jonas did that. That's the thing. Jonas was using her, you know, and then when Lorraine found out, she evicted him. Yeah. So. You know, and then Russell was using her as Russell was being jealous and he wanted her the whole time and blah, blah, blah and all that. So and then he killed her. So she only wanted the two of them. It had nothing to do with anybody else.
Listen to me. Susan came back for revenge, to kill Jonas and Elaine. But now I think she wants more. She wants her life back and she's going to possess Paige unless we stop her.
So something I want to talk about in this movie and something that I love about it is, you know, we joked around about artistic, creative earlier in the episode. I have a list here of some really cool shots, cinematography-wise. There was a lot of work you can tell put into moving the camera on a Steadicam, building props to mimic stuff on set just to get cool shots. So,
and a lot of it was due to time too. It's like, we're not going to be able to do much, so they got kind of creative with condensing shots.
Yeah, so one of the first ones that come to mind in this movie, and this is probably, if I'm being honest, one of my favorite things about this film, is just the cinematography and the use of the camera as the POV of the spirit.
Of Susan, yeah.
That's basically what it is. It's Susan. You're looking at it through Susan's eyes. So there's a shot in the movie where it's obviously a Steadicam. You're the perspective of Susan. And it's a long shot. And apparently this was done on a Steadicam on a crane.
Yep.
The camera goes from outside the apartment building through a window. And they actually had to open the windows, time it properly, to have the camera guy fit through it.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great shot.
The window is like a grid. It's just a square grid, so it's all like little 1x1 square windows. The whole wall is just windows, 1x1 square windows. And they popped one. They didn't pop out, but the way they built it, they took one pane of the glass out. So it's just a 1x1 square, and the whole rest of the window is still intact. So yeah, he comes down, the crane comes down, and he's like basically on a forklift, essentially on a high forklift, and the cameraman was standing on like a wooden pallet of sorts, and it lowered him down onto the roof of the building. And he walked across the roof of the building and stuck the camera lens through that broken window. And then the crew picked up the whole rest of the grid of the window and moved it out of frame so that he could step through. Yeah. And then put it back in place.
It's impressive, man.
Yeah.
It's all one continuous shot, too.
It is. And he steps into the bedroom. And then he kind of turns around too, so you can see the window still in place.
It's great.
Great shot.
Yeah. Another really cool and there's two shots in Jonas's death I love. So one is the saw chasing him, where you can tell they had the saw,
the phantasm shots. Yeah,
the saw in front of the camera and spinning, and the camera guy's just chasing Jonas through this basement to try to kill him. And then so there's another shot right when Jonas is about to die, because the way he dies is basically the spirit goes into the furnace and then all the heat comes out, burns Jonas and kills him. But there's a shot where it's the spirit, Susan, going through the keyhole to enter the furnace. And they created a 6-foot keyhole just for that shot, use the right lens to shoot it, that it looks like the camera's passing through the keyhole. I was like, wow, all this to get... and these are really creative shots. It's just cool to see them build a practical giant keyhole to get this all as one.
They did things like that for movies back then, man. Now that would be all CG.
Exactly.
You know? But movies like this and like The Gate, they did stuff like this where they would build this kind of one elaborate set piece just to get the camera, just to get the shot to look a certain way.
And there's a lot of that in this movie. There's a scene later on with the car where Mitch is driving and the camera passes. It's the ghost again, through the car.
Yep.
It goes from the windshield out through the back glass, straight through it. And that was literally cut up into two shots where they had, I think, a fake front and a fake back, I think, if I remember correctly in the commentary. And the camera passes right through it. Similar to the giant keyhole, they did something to kind of make it seem fluid that the camera and the ghost POV is passing right through the car. Just 6 shots. There's another one really cool where the mirror shatters and Russell and Paige approach the shattered mirror, and every piece is laid out perfectly.
It's very Twilight Zone.
Yes. I was going to say the same thing. And you see their reflection. One's Russell, one's Paige perfectly. And the camera even moves, framing them even better. And I was like, wow, that's a good shot. Just a lot of that. For a film like Witchboard 2.
Yeah.
To have such...
a lot of talent behind it, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say innovative, but just for a film of this caliber, to go one step above to make it just look cool with the cinematography. And I wouldn't say it's like this beautiful looking film. It's just cool. These are just cool effects. And they're special effects, basically, is what they are. In reality, they're creating these faux objects. There's even a fireplace effect where Paige looks into the fireplace and the camera drops down the fireplace straight to her face. And they created a faux fireplace just to get that shot. For one shot. So all that work for one shot. And I admire that. I admire the just dedication to getting these shots. You know they had to have done them a couple times to get them right. Even the fucking car accident is impressive.
It is.
This is some fucking Fast and the Furious shit that they do for 1993. Fucking car flips over. It took them like 2.5 days to shoot it, apparently. So I'm like, wow, Witchboard 2.
Put a lot into it.
Yeah, you wouldn't think.
Not
Kevin
really having
Teddy,
to sell this movie very hard, am I? Wow, it's fucking amazing.
You know, you think about it. This was a movie that the audience was mostly direct to video. Probably. I don't think most people watched this in the theater.
Like I
this
said,
probably made most of its money.
Extremely underseen. It should have gotten bigger, but it didn't, and I don't know why.
Yeah, like you just think about it, you're like, all this work, all this hard work, they flipped a car. And it was just people renting it at Blockbuster that got to see this, and at mom and pop video stores. That's who went. No one in 93 was going to rushing to the theaters to see Witchboard 2. They were rushing to the theaters to see Jurassic Park, but not Witchboard. People weren't even rushing to the theaters to go see Last Action Hero, and that came out the same year, and that movie bombed. Yeah. How well do you think Witchboard 2 did in 93? No. So it's just kind of wild to see the craftsmanship with some of these shots.
Even on a film that didn't go very far, didn't get very big, they still put everything they had into it. It had a $2.5 million budget, just like the first one, a $2 million budget. You know, so They considered it small, and they were stretching things at the end.
Dude, they stretched that $2 million for 90. I know it's 93, but still.
Yeah.
They stretched that. A good chunk of the budget must have gone to the cinematography in that car accident. A good chunk of that budget.
What do you guys know about Ouija boards?
Not much. I mean, supposedly ghosts can spell out messages with that pointer thing, right?
Do you believe that?
No. I figure it's probably just your own subconscious.
So there's a couple other things I want to point out here that stuck out to me. I love the dream sequence because we talked about the cover earlier. Yeah. The way they set up the apartment, changing it from Paige's setup to Susan's setup with all the purple curtains, the skulls, the candles, her walking up to the Ouija board. And
totally redecorated the apartment.
Yeah.
And it kind of morphs into it, Like it starts and you first like, okay, you're in and then you start to realize, wait a minute, this is different.
And it goes back to why Susan has the Ouija board. She's into occult and all that stuff. So it makes sense, and it plays that up with this dream sequence.
Still don't know how she got rid of the bullet holes.
I still don't know that either. That's ambiguous. That's left to the imagination. It just it's like the Necronomicon. It just like rebuilt itself.
It just does.
Yeah. That entire dream sequence, it almost looks like a music video. And the fact that the cover of the movie is actually paid off. This really happens. Paige walks up to the Ouija board and they dress someone's arm to look like the Ouija board, and it reaches up and grabs her by the neck and she wakes up. I love that, 80s, 90s horror films had these great covers and sometimes the movie never lived up to it. In this case, that actually happens in the film. So that's great. I love that they were able to do that. And that wrecking ball kill, man. We can't. We can't.
Oh, it comes at the kill. Oh,
they used a real wrecking ball and they destroyed another car and a dummy. Elaine's character getting demolished. I also love how they had to add a shot of the dog running away to say, "Hey, we didn't kill the dog.
Dog's
guys.
fine. The dog's
fine. Don't get mad at us. The dog survived that wrecking ball kill." And then that shot of her mangled body, all bloody. It was great. It was like probably that is the goriest, nastiest death
of the movie.
Film. Yeah,
it's the only one.
And they did it with the most known actor in the film. So that's
gave her a good send off.
Yeah, they're like, we got this woman's on SNL. She's the
we gotta kill her
person. Because when you watch the trailers, they really market that she's in this film. Let's make sure we butcher her pretty nasty in a nasty way. Any closing thoughts, Manny? Anything else you want to add here as we wrap up Witchboard 2?
Dude,
anything you don't like.
You made my whole case.
Anything you don't like. Anything you don't like. I'm just curious. So if I proved you right that this is a great film, is there anything, if you had to nitpick at the end of the show here, anything, since you love this movie so much, because my nitpick, I'm not going to get into it again. I think some of the acting from Paige is a little wooden. Some of the acting from other actors.
Some of the performances are a little
iffy.
Yeah, some of the performances are a little iffy. No, there's not much. I can't think of anything
Witchboard too.
I do. I can't think of anything that I dislike about this movie. I told you I don't like her outfit. I think it's just a terrible looking outfit. Like I'm
a big fan.
As a just like from a costuming perspective, it doesn't match. Like, it looks dumb.
It's like she looks hot in this. Let's just put her in it.
That's pretty much it.
The funniest thing about the Daisy Dukes and crop top outfit is that's what she's wearing to go dig up a corpse.
Exactly. It's like, it's really kind of like, what is going on here?
She's like I want to look like a smoke show when I go get dirty
She's
and muddy.
We're gonna go
dig up this corpse.
We're gonna go to the cemetery and dig this body up, and I'm gonna do it in Daisy Dukes and cowboy boots
at a crop top, showing my midriff.
Yep.
Listen, I would have loved to see her come out of the grave dirty, leather jacket off, booty shorts, crop top. I was like waiting for that scene to happen. Then Mitch shows up and kills a raccoon.
I think it's just the cowboy boots. I think that's what kills it. I think it just looks.
Listen.
I think it's just the boots.
One of my favorite things in the film listed here. Paige's outfit for her grave robbing, her grave digging scene. So you didn't like it. I was a fan.
All right.
My closing thoughts are this. I have not seen this film many moons. So this was a fun revisit. I actually watched 1 and 2 back to back initially, and then I rewatched this because for the show, for the podcast.
And I remember when we talked about doing this.
Yeah.
You talking about how, and I said how much I like, you're like, that's really because the first one is way better. You said that. You said it, and I was like, nope.
Because like I said really earlier, I didn't really remember part 2. So, and I had seen it. This was not a first time watch for me. Mm-hmm. So watching part 1, and then I literally put part 2 on right afterwards. Because funny enough, I own both of these movies, and I don't even think I ever opened part 2. I think this was like in the cellophane wrapping still. So that goes to show you. Probably bought it for like $3 somewhere a long time ago and forgot I had it like 10 years ago. I watched 1, I watched 2, and after the fact, I was like, part 2 is better. The bromance in part 1 and all that, I wasn't a huge fan of all that stuff.
I think part 1 gets way too convoluted.
I mean, I enjoy it.
There's a lot. It's a good movie, but there's too many moving parts that just like what is the point of this movie? Like, what story are we following? There's like 2 or 3. Who's the main character in the first one? Is my problem with it. There's so many. Everyone's got their, and it's like I don't know what story are we telling.
Yeah, we'll probably never cover part 1. We'll probably end it with Witchboard 2. We'll probably never do it inside.
I like it, but
I mean, I don't see us ever doing a full kind of physical media talk about the film. One of these Haunted Hall episodes on Witchboard, because in reality, Witchboard 2 is the superior film. It is. This is one of those rare cases where the sequel is better than the original, in my opinion. And I would tell anyone, listeners, friends of ours, if you want to watch a Witchboard movie, start with part 2.
Yep.
The lead's better to look at. And it's a lot of fun. And there's some cool effects involving the camera. Mm-hmm. It's not a bloodbath.
The mirror shot is great.
Yeah.
When see her walking up to and she reaches through the window in the mirror and grabs her. Like they genuinely like, oh shit, I didn't realize. It's easy how they did. But it's
again, that is one of the many highlights of this movie is just seeing, like, trying to figure out how they did that. Mm. And it's Witchboard 2. Yep. That's it. It's Witchboard 2, and this is the type of movie it is. So yeah, start with, if you've never seen any of the Witchboard movies, start with Witchboard 2, then Witchboard 1. Do it backwards.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Manny and I can't. Manny and I have no input on Witchboard 3. No. Hey, maybe we'll come back and just randomly do Witchboard 3.
I'm gonna pull up the YouTube and I'll watch it later today or tomorrow or something. I'm gonna get through it.
So Witchboard 2, a hidden gem from the 90s that you should go out of your way to watch.
When you use the Ouija, you open a door and the spirits can step through.
So that's how she was able to break my mirror, because we were using the Ouija.
Right. No Ouija, no broken glass.
So that was Witchboard 2, The Devil's Doorway. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com where you can find links to everything, including our Patreon page, where I could see us doing a future drunk commentary to this movie, Manny.
I'm all in on that one. 100%.
And you get early access to episodes, all that good stuff.
And be sure to rate and review us wherever it is that you're listening to us, whether it be on your iPod, do iPods still exist? No, your cell phone, whether maybe you're listening to us on your own Ouija board. Review us on there. Just move it on over to a yes.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later. Ooh, Ouija board plan chat.